Welcome to another Books and Things with Tom. And tonight we have an author, a local author from Connecticut, and she has written an astounding book called Why Go On? Whoa. Anyway, Why Go On, and her name is Lisa Wright. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Oh, it's just a pleasure. And I read the book, and thank you for a copy of it. It's I'm impressed how you even got started doing this.
You mean in terms of the actual
What
conception?
gave you the idea?
Well, I talked about it a little in the introduction, but I wanted to write a book. I had written a lot of fiction in the past and realized that I sort of didn't want to do fiction anymore. I wanted to move into nonfiction because that was primarily what I was reading. And I wanted to write a book to help people, but I didn't really know what to write about because there's been a lot of books written. What could I offer that other people haven't already done? So while I was trying to come up with an idea, I started volunteering at Cheshire Youth Institution, which is a prison for young men. Mm-hmm. And there was a bunch of volunteers. You know, we went every week and through a group called Thresholds, which teaches them decision-making skills. So sometimes it would take a while for the inmates to arrive. So one day I started a chat with one of the fellow volunteers. We were just talking about the inmates and, you know, that they were good kids, but maybe sort of had a rough start. I made a comment because I have had a pretty good childhood. I made a comment to another one of the volunteers named Ray. I said, they didn't grow up like we did. And he said, I had a terrible childhood. And over the period of about 5 minutes, he told me this story about his life story, basically about how he endured trauma as a child and then started abusing drugs and then had somewhat of an overdose and then had a near-death experience and then came back with brain damage, which he then healed himself through meditation. So this was sort of a whirlwind conversation in the period of 5 minutes.
Wow.
It just stuck with me, as I think these kind of conversations tend to make an impression on people when you may know somebody a little bit but have no idea what they've been through. So I thought, maybe there's something I can do with this, and I sort of bookmarked it in the back of my head as something important to come back to. And I realized about 6 months later, that's just a chapter. And I could just write more chapters about different people in Connecticut, about what they've been through, that sort of on the one hand, you can learn what people have been through or what other people are going through that you may not know about. And also, if you're going through a tough time, you can read these and sort of apply what these people have done to heal and make a positive out of a negative. So the book is about 20 different people in Connecticut who have overcome adversity to institute some kind of positive change in their lives or in the world.
Well, I think one of the key things that you just said is talk to people.
Yeah.
And find out what they are about. I talked to one of my neighbors the other day. I found out she related to a friend of mine.
Right.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough conversation between us.
Yeah.
And it's sad because people die and you don't even know what they did until you see the newspaper.
I know.
And the newspaper goes, oh, blah, blah, blah. Wow, I didn't know that.
Right, yeah. And that was sort of one of the takeaways that I got from the book is about interconnectedness because, you know, I sort of went into this thinking I was going to learn about how people connected with God in times of crisis, because I think that even though, you know, a relaxing time is nice to experience, you learn a lot more during crisis. So I thought that by looking at what people do during those times, how they rely on their faith or, you know, of any, you know, obviously everybody has a different perception of God. So I sort of thought it would be something like, you know, here's God, and how did I connect with God through this time of crisis? But what I learned was that it was the people connecting with other people that was really sort of their faith, because in a sense, God is sort of in everyone, or, because I mean, God, you know, you can, again, interpret it so many different ways.
Sure. Absolutely.
But it was through sort of the kindness and compassion of themselves and others that they were able to heal. That was more, because I had people who were very religious, people who were atheists, people who didn't care either way. Yeah. So there was no, you know.
Well, and you need people around you to brace yourself.
Right.
And it's
Right.
because otherwise you're just going to fall down again.
Yeah, and I think that one of the key factors in healing after some sort of a trauma is not isolating, because isolating is not. You may need some time to heal and be alone and overcome shock,
Yeah.
but it's the connecting and going outside yourself. Asking for help is so important for people, because a lot of the people in this book, they immediately sought help, and if they didn't, they found a way to create something.
Yep. I know myself, when going through that time, I didn't want anybody to bother me because I was in depression.
Right,
And when you're in depression, leave me alone.
right,
But my friends knew better,
right.
and they kept bothering me.
Yeah, yeah,
And it keeps you from going insane.
yes. And we never mentioned that Mr. Santos is one of the chapters in the
That's
book.
right, I am. Thank you very much. Now, how did you find these people?
I was actually a little worried that I wouldn't find anybody willing to participate and, sort of find 3 people and say, well, that's all I got. But I had a pretty good response, and I basically just sent out press releases to different media organizations. And the patch was really helpful, which is, if people don't know, it's a local, hyper-local, I think they used to call it, online
Yeah.
resource. And so I just put out a press release and just said, have you been through something that you made better, in whatever sense, and just send me a paragraph. So I would wake up every morning to people telling me their life story in 2 paragraphs, which is a unique experience in itself, because it feels very personal to read people's, you feel kind of, I don't know, a kinship just with a person just from that. A lot of times we introduce ourselves with small talk or things that really are of no consequence. And when I interviewed these people, most of them, I guess all of them, except for my friend Ray, who did end up having a chapter, they were just strangers, and we would sit down like this in their kitchen, and they would tell me, about the most troubled times in their life, and that's something you don't get very often.
No, but you come across very nicely, and so people aren't afraid of you.
No,
And
they were all very welcoming.
Yeah, and you have a welcoming voice, and you know what you're doing. You have the right questions, and which I was impressed.
Yeah,
So it's easy
I
to-
had a good time talking to you.
Yeah.
And it was nice because you have a book, so I already knew there was some people that required more research than others.
Yeah.
The first chapter is about Fernando Bermudez, who, spent 18 years in prison for a murder he had nothing to do with. It wasn't, it wasn't like sorta, maybe, possibly, it had absolutely nothing to do with it. And so there was, his story was covered in the New York Times and Newsweek and all kinds of places. So that was a lot of research. Other people, I knew nothing but the 2 paragraphs they sent me and their email address. That was it. So it was kind of nice to have some people where I knew it all, like I had read your book, so I knew all the facts, so we could kind of just have a relaxed conversation.
Sure.
And then other people, I just sort of learned about everything at one time.
And I still have the part when you asked me a question and we heard the bedroom door
Oh,
open.
yeah, that was so weird. Tell us the story.
I had, when Lisa came over, I closed my bedroom door and the bathroom door because I didn't want anybody to see my bedroom. And so they were closed, and we started talking, and a few minutes into the conversation, Lisa said, ask me a question. And I paused, and that's when we heard the bathroom door open and close. And there was no question. You could hear the clicking of the door, and you have it on tape.
I do, and I remembered what the question was. You were talking about Todd, and you said that you saw him laying there on the gurney, and I just got this very vivid picture of that, and it sort of struck me emotionally, and then the door opened, so it sort of was an odd pairing of events.
It was so weird.
And it was very loud and audible.
Because you heard the door click open and click close.
Yes.
And I looked afterwards, and the door was still closed.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oof.
But it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Nice that happened at that time.
Yes.
Because I'm sure he was sitting there listening, making sure I
I
didn't
know,
lie.
that's the thing. There's a lot of people who have lost loved ones. That's one of the themes in the book, and in a weird way, I sort of felt connected to the people who had passed, almost because they transcend time and space.
They're there.
Yeah.
They're there and they listen. And you had, I'm trying to remember which one it was that lost the son.
Anne, but.
Why don't we talk about Angel first?
Yeah, let's talk about Angelique. There's 3 people who are local to this area. Angelique is from the Groton area, and she had an unfortunate incident with her stepfather when she was, I believe she was 16. The first time there was ever this type of experience, but she was basically assaulted by him and became pregnant with his child, and this is Angel right here. So she decided, she grew up in the Chicago projects where there was an abundance of crime. Her mother really tried to keep her on a good path, but there was trouble around every turn, sort of thing, and you had to really work to make a good life for yourself. Yeah. So when she ended up pregnant with her stepfather's child, in this location that wasn't the best place to raise a child, she decided to give him up for adoption, hoping that he'd have a better life. And she then went into the military, and then she ended up she moved up in rank. She started, I believe, in temporary work. I think she started in pharmaceutical companies, and she sort of worked her way up. And now she's got a great job. She's married. She has 3 children, and now she's reconnected with her adopted son. And she just is an amazing decision maker, and just sticks with the goal, and does the right thing, and didn't have an easy life, but boy, she made the best of it.
And that's why you go on.
Yes.
Because there's so many advantages out there, and to give up, I still think that life is a test, and we have to pass them, and we get so many obstacles thrown at us that we have to climb over each one and learn and move on.
Yeah.
And I think those who don't have to repeat it.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming back to repeat this, I'll tell you. I'll come back by something else, but but I think that's the whole key is to know, is to find a way to keep on.
Yeah.
So.
And
then we've got
Anne is next.
Anne.
Anne lost her son a few years ago to suicide, which, understandably put her in a fairly depressed place. And I know, I like the part in her story where she says, because one of her sons moved back home with his dog after her other son died. She has 3 sons. And the dog got her up every day out of bed because he needed to be walked. And that was something that was sort of another running theme, is that pets need to be taken care of, but also offer you unconditional love.
Absolutely.
Which is a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah.
So it's after that, she realized that there was not enough grief resources in the area. So which you had mentioned also.
Right.
So she started doing support groups and working in hospice or volunteering in hospice. And so she started the Brian T. Daigle Foundation. They do a lot of events in the area. And she has the long-term goal of starting a healing center for people who not just have lost a loved one, but in terms of addiction and even loss of a pet and all kinds of things, just a place for people to heal and get complementary therapies and alternative therapies and things like that.
Wow.
She's a pretty incredible person, too.
Yeah. The stories that are in the book are amazing, and you're reading through them and you go, how did he go on? Or how did she go on?
And I had living proof because I sat there and the people are okay. It was such a good experience to interview these people, and they were all great. And I sent all of their chapters to make sure I got all the facts right and make sure they were okay, because there might be something sensitive that they didn't realize they said. And people they said, oh, let's just change this a little. They were so kind, and I just can't believe I got such a great group of people.
Well, the other thing is that when you tell a story like that, like my story, people will read that story and then maybe they're in the same condition I
Right.
was.
Right.
And look at it and say, well, he made it.
Right.
I can make it.
Right.
Or with Angel, with all the abuse and everything, she made it.
Yeah.
And so people can look at these stories and say, and they're not all the same.
Yeah.
They're far apart.
Yeah.
But there is a tragedy of some sort in their lives that have
Right.
pushed them up.
Yeah, there's childhood abuse. One woman was in the foster care system, which I learned a lot. I didn't realize there's so much that I've never really met anyone who's been in foster care, so I was sort of ignorant to all that whole. And living with a chronic disease or overcoming cancer, again, loss of a loved one. Then there's sort of a unique one was one individual helped identify the bodies after the Jonestown Massacre. That was sort of a...
Oh, that was a heck of a story.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one.
Oh, boy. Maybe an abridged version.
Yeah.
Well, oh, boy, I'm going to get the facts wrong, but he worked as a mechanic in the Air Force?
I think so,
Yeah, I'm very bad with
Yeah.
military terminology. That's a pretty basic one, but he worked at Dover Air Force Base, and that's where they sent the deceased after the Jonestown Massacre. So he helped process everyone, and actually one of the people he processed was Jim Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And if you're not familiar with the Jonestown Massacre, that was where Jim Jones had everybody commit suicide.
Yeah, and it was the biggest loss of life, of American life, in a non-military.
Yeah, and they killed the people, the politicians that were there to help them.
that was rough, yeah.
And it's just, I remember that very vividly. It was very scary.
Yes.
And so this guy treated all the bodies.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that you're treating bodies but out in the sun, dead for days.
But we don't have to go there. But we also have, let's see. Oh, there's also alcoholism, overcoming alcoholism or drug abuse. Also, I have a whole big list on the back of missing persons. There's probably. Do you know Jan Smolinski?
No.
Well, because some people might remember Billy Smolinski went missing about 11 years ago, and she had big billboards put up over on, I think it was 84 and maybe 95, and he was an adult male, so it was sort of a striking missing poster because usually it's kids.
Yeah.
But they had quite a debacle with the police not assisting them properly to help find her son. So that was another interesting one. But yes, so we also have is Todd Johnstone. This should be somewhat
Todd,
well-known.
from local boy from Stonington.
Yes.
Man. And he had an interesting story.
Yes.
There he is.
Yes.
Quite an
With his
artist
artwork,
also.
Yes. Yes, definitely. It was an experience being in his barn with all of his art. It was cool. And he actually, I loved seeing, Todd was he went to if you don't know the story, he went on a school ship, which I had never heard of.
Yeah.
And it was in the 60s, and they basically had school on a ship and went to the Galapagos Islands, all kinds of, exotic locations. And unfortunately, he was at the helm when a white squall hit, which is like a, lightning, burst of wind, turning, doomsday scenario. And it was made later. He survived, but I'm going to forget how many. I believe some students and two of the staff, I believe, passed away. And they made one of the other students on the ship wrote a book, which was then later created into the movie White Squall. And then he, as if that wasn't an adventure enough, he went on to do all kinds of other things, and his story gets properly weird, which I kind of loved, because I didn't expect that.
He's done a lot.
Yeah.
And he's very talented.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it because I know you, but he is very talented.
Yeah.
And he's done some beautiful stuff.
Oh yes, I was going to say he still has the life vest that the survivors clung onto in the middle of the ocean, and he has it in his studio, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah, because he was actually blamed for the sinking.
Yes.
But it turned out that it was actually the boat itself.
Yeah, it was.
That
Yeah,
had loose ballast.
Yeah, they did so many modifications for a movie, and it just was not set to handle that type of destruction.
That's a shame. It's just. But again, you've done so much, and you've done a tremendous story writing the stories.
Thank you.
A tremendous job writing the stories, because they're very interesting, and I know you had to jockey around with some of it, because if you just wrote it the way they said it, it'd be boring.
Yeah, and it was a lot of editing. That was really, I'd try to do it once a week. I'd meet with people, I'd go home and transcribe the interview, and then write a rough draft, and then sort of roughly edit it. And so that process of going through everybody took about 9 months, I'd say. But then after that, I just went and edited and edited. I mean, writing is probably 50% writing and 50% editing. It's just, you have to do so much going back over and over.
And then you're not done, because now you got to go out and sell it.
Yeah, well, there's that part too.
Now, tell us about the lady in Cheshire.
Jennifer with one N.
Is it Jennifer? Yes.
Because there's two Cheshires. Jan is also in Cheshire.
Oh, that's right.
She has MS, and
I think this story is just phenomenal.
She was very active, liked to work out and bike and all. She was very active, and then she started developing MS, and sort of she's very good at fundraising. Very, very. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So she started Team Jennifer, and she did walks, to raise money for MS, and then she also continued her fundraising after the Petit murders. Petit. I always say Petit. Petit. Say it again. The Petit murders. She started the Luminaries.
Luminaries, right?
And she said that first year after that tragedy happened, she sold every single house in Cheshire, bought those and put them out. And then she continued that into the Cheshire Lights of Hope charity.
Yep.
And between that and raising money for MS, she's raised, I don't know what it's at now since I've talked to her in the past year, but it was at about $1 million that
That's
she's raised for charities, yeah.
And in the book, she talks about the second problem that Cheshire had, and the Pettits came in and helped her fill the luminary bags.
Oh, I think that was for in the beginning. I'm not sure. I think that was still for them, because the other one was more recent, I think. But they're
it was more recent, but he's remarried when he came in.
Right.
Brought
Yeah.
his wife in.
Yes.
I read it a lot sooner than you have.
But also, she is also a spin instructor, which is like
right.
the bicycling stationary bike. So even though she has fairly significant issues walking or just mobility in general, she's able to be a fitness instructor on a bike, which is pretty incredible.
And her husband works right alongside her.
Yeah, he's very supportive.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
It's going fast.
It is.
And what else would you like to add?
Well, if anybody would like to contact me and give me feedback,
Good idea.
at info@outfoxbooks.com.
There it
is. I'm always happy to hear feedback or anything.
And if you would like to get a copy of her book,
Well, yeah, that would be good
you
too.
can get either go through Outfox Books.
Yeah, if you go to the website Outfox Books, I can send a autograph copy, or you can use good old Amazon, which will not be autographed, but will be.
Or you can contact me, and I can contact her. We'll get you set up.
Yes.
Don't forget, it's Christmas time,
Yeah.
and it's
Perfect
great
for Christmas.
to give away Christmas books. And they don't have to be about Christmas. It's just like the Wright. if you just like to read, and this is
Yeah,
a
I've
great
had
book.
a lot of people buy it for people who are going through, some kind of stress. They say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm going to get this for my sister because she's."
Oh, I think it's a great healing book. I think
Yeah.
it's something that people should read.
Yeah.
And I know I was very intrigued with it, and not just because I had an article in it, and you did a great job with mine, thank you.
Thank you.
And I actually had tears when I read it, and I know the story.
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of emotion during the interviews while I was writing. It was tough sometimes because they're pretty. I didn't want to whitewash anything.
Yeah.
I wanted to say,
Yeah.
no, this is really what happened. It's not like, oh yeah, everything's okay. It's real.
Yes, exactly. And people go through things, and people don't know. I mean, you look at me today. 21 years ago, I was a mess.
Right.
And so, people have told me that I've come a long way. Mm-hmm. And I guess I did. I don't know. I'm still here. I think that's the big thing is I am here.
Yes.
And how did your book launch go?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah. All my friends came, and we had it in a restaurant, so it was kind of fun. It was more fun than, a bookstore where you could just like hang out and relax and sit down or whatever. And it was good. It was really good.
That's great.
So, that was another thing is that in the spring, I'd like to do some tours of like senior centers and libraries. So if anybody watching, is someone who coordinates that type of thing, feel free to contact me to book something. In the
Yeah,
spring
and
summer.
we're going to do a couple of book signings down here, too. We're going to travel another hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know.
Yeah, I hear lots of good things about the Bank Square.
Yeah, Bank Square Books. You can contact Bank Square Books, and they don't have them yet, but you can ask them to order them, and they can get them for you. And I'd be happy to mail it over to her. She'll sign it. But this is what we do, is try to help people get books
Yeah.
out and get it on.
And I'm hoping that it also helps the people who told me their stories, because I've had people say, this has, it was good to talk about it, get it out, and will help
Yep.
me heal, which is
Yeah.
great. That's the point.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anybody yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I hope you sell a lot of books.
Thank you.
It's the holiday. I can't believe it's Christmas.
I know.
A couple more weeks. And send me an email, and I'll send you a list of all the authors that have been on here, and that you can order the books. Books are a great gift, and they last forever, as long as the dog doesn't get a hold of it.
But if you have already read it, it's in here.
That's right. That's right. You've always got.
Books have
got it
changed
in
my
there.
life.
Have they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Books are great.
They are.
And depends on what if you. I'm more into nonfiction.
Mm-hmm, me too.
But I do like a good fictional book. I'm reading one now by a lady who was on the show the other day, a couple weeks ago, about horses. Mm-hmm. And very interesting.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about horses.
Now you will.
So I'm learning. And I'm learning that you steal horses. But anyway, it's a mystery. But I think books, it gives you another subject to talk about, too.
Yeah.
And you're well-rounded if you read the
Yeah.
different books.
Yeah.
And it's just I just think they're fantastic.
And I really like biographies, so this was kind of fun for
Yes.
me because it was sort of like writing people's
Yeah.
biographies in short little stints. But I love learning about like the meaty details of somebody's
Yeah.
psyche. I think that's
Yeah.
fascinating. There's nothing more interesting than that to me.
Well, you learn about people that the writers.
Yeah.
You say, well, he's got a very strange mind. Anyway, we'll be back again next week. Next week we're going to have a Lions lady on. She's going to be talking about a fundraiser we're doing. And got to watch Christmas Eve because we're going to have Santa Claus. Santa Claus will be here Christmas Eve, and he's going to talk about, who knows?
Christmas?
I never know what he's going to say.
Santa's secrets.
Yeah, Santa's secret.
Stay tuned to find out about Santa's secrets.
That's a good idea. There you go. He may, who knows? He may tell you what you're getting. Tune again next week. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.